Hello, everyone. Today I'm here with James Abad, the co-founder of Produlis and former employee at Blackpeak. He's an expert in WWX, and I'm really excited to have him here today on the stream. So, James, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background, and how did you get started with the WWX stack?
Thank you, Manu. I appreciate you guys having me here. Long story short, I used to work as a Webflow developer. Before I even jumped into Webflow, I learned about HTML and CSS. I just studied one semester in an institute here in Peru. I knew that they were going to teach me WordPress on the second semester, and I knew that I had to leave because, I have to watch the YouTube tutorial where Ransega made a comparison between, WordPress and Webflow, and I had to leave. And, from there, I started learning Webflow. I started watching, these OG YouTube YouTubers like Jose Ocando, Web Dev for You, and all of these, fantastic YouTubers. And then I got a job about it. I posted, my portfolio on Facebook. An agency from Miami reached out. They liked my portfolio. They hired me. I started there as a junior. That was the best decision I could have made. I learned a ton from them. I learned about good practices, right? Because I was not doing just some basic websites. I was doing websites for clients, some enterprise clients, and that was awesome. Then I got to meet Billy from Blackpeak, and he liked my portfolio as well. And he decided to hire me. And from there, we started working together. And I think we were watching these tutorials, like the tutorials from Peyton Clark-Smith. And he was always saying, hey, you need to get into a niche, right? You need to get into a niche. And we were the only agency that I was working, or not the only, but, there were just a few agencies working with Wized back then. Because if you knew JavaScript, at that time, you might not be using Wized V1, like the first version, because, you were only limited to working with IDs and not really with attributes. So it was, if you knew JavaScript properly, you might know were using Wized at that time. And we were working on Wized because we didn't know JavaScript, and we were working with Wized, and we learned JavaScript through the process. And all of a sudden the agency started scaling. We got the crazy news that Finzi was buying Wized, and that was just nuts. And I still remember talking with Bailey, and I said, "Hey, these news are going to change like our lives. Like this is going to change everything. To have the support such a huge team as Finzi, it was nuts for the tool." And it's been quite a long journey, It's been already almost, I don't remember when we got the news, but it's already almost 3 years, I would say, like 2 years and something. But it's not, or no, it's a year and a half or something like that, yeah.
I believe it was 2021.
Oh, no, then
it was announced, but I'm not sure. I'm not 100% certain.
Yeah.
And, so you've been one of the first people who started working with Wized, even before Finswith acquired Wized. So, you've been familiar with that stack for a very long time now.
Yeah, at the beginning, I was not an expert, like setting up like database structure. I think that's a super important part of building web applications. And I was lucky enough that in the first semester that I studied, HTML, CSS, we had a teacher, we had a course about SQL and how to structure a database properly, primary keys, foreign keys, and all of this, logic, how to create an ER diagram. And I never thought that I was going to use that knowledge. And, we still are learning through, all this process, but I think we learn as well, not the ideal way, we were learning while we were building some projects, and that's not ideal, but, at that moment, there was no one else building it, and there was no one to reach out to. And it's amazing that we have more people, build on top of these tools, and I know it's going to get bigger and bigger. And so that's why it's, a fantastic moment to get into this niche. But that's how we started, yeah. pretty much.
So you've been learning as you go from the beginning. You had to basically go beyond what's been out there in terms of educational content right from the get-go. So you had that resourcefulness right away to just invent different solutions for problems that you're facing along the way. Would you say that was crucial in you becoming an expert?
Yeah, for sure. I would have loved to have an introduction to web application development when I started. I knew the basics of JavaScript, from the tutorials that I have watched from Timothy Riggs, for you guys as well, building JavaScript. And that was it, And then, for Xano, for example, for me, one of the best guys in this tech stack, like not only with Webflow and Xano, but in general, like with low-code tools, it's Radek. He was like my mentor in Xano. He's a full stack engineer. He just does this type of thing because he just loved helping people. He just loved helping people, and that was pretty much it. I, for example, like whenever I had a problem in Xano, I was not looking into like how to do it. Like I was not looking at I wasn't looking on YouTube like how to make something in Xano. I was looking to PHP because I know Xano was based on PHP, and I was looking into solutions. How can I do this filter with PHP? And then all of a sudden I could find that filter in Xano. And that was like the way that we were going at that time with projects, right?
I think that's something that's also helped me progress like very fast. So whenever I have a problem in Wized, I first look at the solution in JavaScript, and then I translate that into Wized. Same thing with HTML and CSS. Whenever I need, let's say, a CSS animation, I don't want to use Webflow interactions, or it's just not possible, but I assume that it's possible to do with HTML and CSS. I look it up, I go to CodePen, and once I see the HTML and CSS, I can easily translate the same concepts to Webflow. And I think no matter which no-code tool you're picking, you don't have to become a coder, but it's important that you can understand code and that you can translate whatever the concepts are in the documentation to translate that to the tool that you're using.
Just like you said it, I think whenever you start understanding, the whole implementation between all of these programming languages is when you can use any front-end tool. For example, we're not. I don't think I'm unlocked to Webflow. I think we can use tools like WeWeb or other tools like that, right? Because as you said it, as long as you understand the whole structure, I think you can use any UI tool, like any low-code tool.
And coding as well. Like if you understand on a conceptual level everything that you need to do with, let's say, auth tokens and cookies and variables and so on, it's not hard to just translate that concept in whatever syntax you need, whether that's like a no-code tool or if you're just using, let's say, a front-end framework like Svelte or React.
Yeah, just like you said it. And I think that the best thing that people can do is just start. You don't need to be an expert. Obviously, I don't suggest you jumping on an enterprise project, right, offering that for a web application, but I just suggest to start. Just start. It doesn't matter if you're an expert. Obviously, no one is an expert at the beginning. Just need to start and you start getting, I think this is another approach. This is whole new, right? Or at least my approach to coding, just like yours, I think is like we start with this. Well, I know you had a development background before the Webflow.
Not really.
Well, at least more than me, because I know you told me that you were, already. Well, I think that was in the middle, right? That's why you just started working on Webflow.
I actually started. I had basically at university one HTML and CSS course that was like 1 week long or something like that. That's all I knew. And then we had basically to create a website with any tool we like. So I picked Wix at the time. And then it was through Webflow that I learned HTML and CSS. And I was getting frustrated with the limitations that I was facing often. And I just wanted to build more and more, and the tool wasn't allowing me to build anything I wanted or to solve all of my clients' problems, basically. So at some point, I decided to pick up JavaScript, and I started learning on Codecademy HTML and CSS, which was also crucial in overcoming a lot of Webflow's limitations. But also picking up JavaScript was very important. Like just understanding how to interact with the DOM and do basic stuff, like can already get you ahead of like most developers, I would say.
Yes.
Just like understanding 10% of JavaScript.
Exactly. As long as you understand, the dot notation flow that you have in JavaScript, how to set a variable, how to listen to events that are happening on the website. That's super important if you want to start working on top of Wized, right? I think that's part of the process. You start learning, right? On the event, click, and then you start kind of getting the idea. Obviously, it's just fantastic. Like the Wized V2 is just not for me. I think a lot of something that we're doing in the agency, Emanuel, is we're bringing technical people. Like we have brought a backend engineer and a front-end engineer, and they both loved like Xano and Wized, and they are working on top of it. And it's just fantastic that they just like it so much. It's like working on a framework. It's pretty much as you guys have said it before, right? Wized is pretty much a framework, and it's awesome that developers, who are really good, building it in that traditional way, are enjoying working on top of these tools.
Yeah, it just gets you, like you have the infrastructure, and it just saves you so much time. You can just get started with building your project immediately without setting up anything.
And now, with ChatGPT, on the game, it's, as you said, you don't need to really know how to write code as long as you understand it. And it's the same, it's, for me, it's more important to learn the concepts, like how to structure or how to format data in Xano. Yeah, you start learning the tool, you start learning the UI. It's the same with JavaScript. You start learning how to, start typing JavaScript. But as long as you understand, as you said, the concepts, now with ChatGPT, it's a whole new world, and where you are not limited by your knowledge on how to write, but more limited to how good you understand JavaScript, right?
Yeah. And to go like a little bit back in time, so we try to give like some tips for people who are just starting out now with Wized and Xano and so on. What would you say would be the ideal learning path? What would you recommend? What are like some of your favorite resources, and which concepts, tools, and apps would you recommend for someone to learn who's just starting out?
So first of all, my suggestion is to learn HTML, CSS. Before even you jump into Webflow, you need to understand, what HTML, CSS is. You need to know how that works on a traditional way. For me, at least, that gives you, a better background whenever you start working on top of Webflow, because if not, you start seeing all of these options that you don't know what they do, and it can get hard. So yeah, starting with the basics, right? HTML, CSS, learning Webflow, learning how to properly, set a website on Webflow, like with a framework, like just client first, that almost every single agency is using. I know not every single agency, but most of the agencies are using client first. And the idea is for you to, before even you jump into Wized, to learn how to properly build a website on Webflow. It's not a must, but if you're trying to build it for a client, ideally you can have, a clear class name in CSS before you jump into this new world about web applications, because it's like the next step, right? And I would have loved to know how, the basics of an API. I would have loved to know the basics of that, this, I don't know what's the specific name, but the dot notation in JavaScript, right? I know, like, because everything is mainly objects, arrays, and that's it. Like, then you have type of values, like, you have the keys and you have strings, integers. And I would have loved to have that basic structure of that basic knowledge, because it's literally the same in PHP, in Xano. Everything is variables, and it's literally that same flow. And I don't think, obviously you start getting like good practices, where you have an stage environment, a live environment working dynamically. You start, start having best practices like creating functions that you can reuse in Xano and all of that. But I would have loved to just know the basics of coding, like, how to destructure an object and all of that.
Who are some of your favorite creators on the internet? You mentioned earlier Ray Dak from State Change. Who else has been inspiring you along your journey?
Well, definitely FinSuite has saved me a ton of times, with the attributes solutions that you guys have, like the filtering has. I don't think there's one Webflow developer that has not used one of you guys' solutions, right? Someone, the person who literally dragged me to Webflow was Ran Segala, so I'm always grateful to his videos and his tutorials. Then obviously we have Web Dev for You. He's an OG YouTuber, so I have too many. Jose Ocando that I was able to meet on the Webflow conference 2 years ago. You guys, particularly to meet. Obviously Timothy Riggs. I have, as I think I said this before, like if 2 years ago you asked me, who was the person who watched the most amount of YouTube videos related with Webflow, probably I was one of one of those people.
So you were like a sponge, just absorbing every sort of information that's Webflow related.
Pretty much, I was, I just loved Webflow. I think a lot of people just enjoy, learning some. I don't know. Webflow was just something so good that it was just funny. It was just fun for me to watch that.
And what's your process like when it comes to scoping projects, starting to work on something? Like, how do you ensure that you're scoping a project properly? Because this is something that's like way harder to do for web apps than it is for traditional websites.
So before anything, before even you give obviously a price or anything, you need to get to know the client. You need to, before even to know the user flow or anything like that, or the whole structure of the web application, is you need to know if you're a good fit with the client, on that first impression, that first call that you get into. For me, that's super important. And then it's just to get to understand the whole web application. You don't want to give a quote if you are missing some part of the web application. I prefer to spend 2 months creating the scope of the project, creating, the user flow, the database structure on FigJam, and from then give them a price. That just give them a price right away, and to just have a terrible experience, because I lose money, they probably lose time, because they haven't paid me enough to invest all this time on it, and I'm not motivated to work on it. So it's just the first part of the web application is super important. The structure of everything on FigJam is super, super important.
Would you like to show us how that looks?
Yeah, for sure. I would love to show a couple of examples of recent projects that we closed one. We're hopefully closing this other one, and I would love to share that. This is an example of a website for a client that we closed, where we pretty much, they gave us an idea of what they wanted. We jumped on a couple of calls with them, just addressing first of all like a small sitemap. It doesn't need to be this way. You can just create a sitemap. Like a really simple sitemap with Relun, and then probably you can edit that sitemap here in Figma, where you just say, we have the sign up page, we have the login page. What fields do you need on the sign up page? What fields do you need on the login page? Step by step, just trying to keep it as human as possible, as simple as possible. And then this is something, like we just create, the login flow, where we have, what fields are we going to ask? If we're going to have, a setup here to save their credit card information. This has been something really basic, where we have then the dashboard, the information that we have on it, then the flows that we're going to set, create campaign, set property address here, select date to run campaign. So pretty much giving an idea of, what the steps come into each part, and then, what do we need to do on the database This was a basic sample here where, we just have different flows here. For example, we end a flow. So pretty much we divide everything into flows. You have the authentication flow, that is the login or the sign up. You have the reset password flow. And as well, the same here, we have another page where it is the properties campaign table. We have the information that we're going to display on that page as well here. We just try to keep it as, as I said, as human as possible. Like this process, just to make it really simple to any person to understand. And obviously, we have here a way larger example where we are getting more granular. For example, here at the top, for example, right, we are bringing data from another source. For example, in this web application, we are not going to have a sign-up flow. The users are going to come from another, database. And then we're syncing that with Xano. We're setting up, what steps do we need to build here, like generate a temporary password and send an invitational email. We have then the login flow. We have some conditionals, right? Is this the first time the user logging in? If it is, as we send in a dummy password, they need to update the password, right? That goes to the database. Then we have this, this, by the way, should not be here. What type of user has logged in here? Then we have 3 types of users, and that's why we have a super admin, we have a regular admin, and then we have a standard employee. And then we have like some examples here. What data we're going to have on the home. Like what's the process of resources here, where we are just structuring, the database and the fields. And this is ideal. This is ideal to have, the fields that you're going to have on each table, and to know how you're going to reference each table, between each other. And that's kind of like the flow. I don't want to overwhelm you guys with, all of this, but it's pretty simple. It's like not simple, I would say, but it's, pretty human. Like we're trying to make it as simple as possible.
Yeah. So let me know if I'm understanding this correct. So you're using gray fields for writing information about the pages, or just adding additional notes. Purple fields are pages. Green fields are conditionals or any sort of logic. And the yellow fields are your database, essentially, right?
Exactly.
So which fields you need in the database?
Sometimes not only the database, but as well the function that we're going to create in Xano, just like here, right? Where we new user data will be stored in Xano, set role ID and location ID accordingly, for example. So it's not always, like the database structure, but it can be as well, some function that we're going to build on top of Xano.
Yeah, something that's like partially related to all of that. Do you have some sort of starter templates? This is something that Jeremy asked. Like, what are some templates or pieces you have in your toolbox for every project?
Aldair always has, we have a template. I don't know if we have it here. Yeah, but we always start with the template. I would love to share like a Figma link there, a FigJam link that I can probably share later because I don't have it right now. But we do have a base with all of these components so we just, drag it and here and copy and paste it pretty much.
And what about Xano templates and Wized templates? Like, do you always start from scratch, or do you have some sort of boilerplate in place?
So we do have templates. Xano. We have private snippets, and as well we have public snippets that we always use, because as you're aware, Emanuel, some processes while you're building a web application are the same on, I'm pretty much the same. Like the login flow might change slightly with a web application with another, right? But it's pretty much the same. Like, so we have an authentication flow. We have some Stripe as well, pre-built flows. We have, we have quite a few flows set up. Like we have a loops flow, this email sender tool, really good, by the way, loops. By the way, shout out to Glenn because he recommended that tool. We used to use a SendGrid or MailerSend, and Loops is fantastic. By the way, they are not paying us.
I'm not familiar with it. Like, can you give me a bird's eye view of like what the benefits are in comparison to SendGrid. Why do you like it more than SendGrid?
Super simple to set up. You go into the web app and automatically you just need to set up, I think, your domain, and that's it. You're already set to start sending dynamic emails. Like, it's super simple, way simpler than using. And as well, the template builder is not bad. It's really good. You can even, it's like they have just simplified the process. They have just made it simple. You may have, other extra functionalities, custom functionality on SendGrid or something like that, but I like the simplicity that they have achieved with loops. And now, for example, you can listen into webhooks, like Stripe webhooks, and then you can send like an invoice to the client. So they are kind of like trying to as well create these automated flows inside the app that are really good.
So basically what you're saying is they have pretty much everything you need, and it's very, very simple to use.
Exactly. Yeah, very simple to use.
Perfect. And Pablo has been asking something to both of us. He asked if we were to create a gated membership website, the fastest way possible, would we use services like MemberStack or Outseta, or would we just do it all in WWX? Do you want to go at it, or?
No, please go ahead. I don't have that much experience in MemberStack. It depends. I will say, it depends. If I have to say it depends on how complex you want to get. I don't know what are the limitations that MemberStack has. Some client has reached out to us, and MemberStack is a really good tool, but some clients, start hitting some limitations with MemberStack, and they reach out. They have reached out to us because they want something more complex, because they have structured, their database on Airtable or other tools like that, and they have as well some data on the CMS, and they start hitting, this Webflow CMS limitation, API limitation, and that's when the robust setup that Webflow, Wized, and Xano allows you to have come in play, right?
Yeah. The way I see it is like, if you want to set up a membership site in the fastest way possible, you're probably going to be faster with Outseta and MemberStack. I probably won't, because I have more experience in Wized, so I could spin it up in maybe 15-20 minutes. But especially if you're a beginner, it's probably way easier to spin up MemberStack or Outseta than it is to create the same thing with Wized. But if you need additional features, either now or later on down the line, it makes much more sense to go with something like Wized. Now, we are also planning to create an integration with MemberStack, so you could use MemberStack eventually just for handling the memberships and the payments and so on, because they simplify that process a lot. But then if you want to build additional features on top of that, then you can use Wized. So I don't see these tools necessarily as competition. Like, sure, they have an overlap, but there's also like a lot of stuff that you can do with one tool that you can't do with the other, or it just saves you time. So yeah, like, short answer, if you don't need any features except for the memberships, go with something like that. If you need additional stuff later on down the line, then Wized is the way to go. Okay, so we talked a little bit about your process. We talked about your starter templates and toolkits, your favorite creators. Now, one of my favorite creators are definitely Ray Deck, now, like, during this time, but also you and Yassine as well. Yassine has been also pushing the boundaries of Webflow and Wized.
No, that tutorial that he posted just a few days ago, or I think it was last week, about the reverse proxy setup. I just found out about this new tool that was just fantastic.
Oh, I don't know about it. I missed that one out.
Please, you have to check it out, because it's a reverse proxy setup with no code. It's just nuts. It's just really good. You can set up
wow,
workers on top of Webflow without having to do all this JavaScript flow.
That's amazing.
That's good. And he has been killing it. He hasn't stopped pushing videos over, I don't know, 2 months, and he's just doing fantastic.
and just figuring all these things out by himself, like the progressive web apps. I don't know if you saw that video. Also, that was like
fantastic.
Really clever. Yeah.
And that those type of tutorials are huge, because if a client comes to you and you didn't know how to have a reverse proxy setup. Now, after that tutorial, you can offer that for sure. So it's the same it's a ton of value. It's a ton of value in such a small video, right? And that's the same that you guys offer, right? You have helped a ton of agency to be able to deliver that reverse proxy setup with the video that you publish. So it's just so much value.
Yeah. And you've been also like pretty busy creating content as well. How do you structure your days? Because I mean, you're leading an agency, you're having all these projects and so on. How do you find time for creating content as well?
I haven't found it in a month, I think. So, I love developing. I love doing that. I think now I think it's part of the process to start migrating into a more organizational role where I'm, just handling tasks for the developers that are joining the team. And it's just it's hard, but obviously, I guess the idea is, I think I saw this tweet from Ransiga. I don't want to focus right now on too many things. I want to get the agency working as good as possible. I want our clients to be happy. I don't want to, land too many clients and, don't be able to handle all these many projects, because it's not, as you said, it's not like a marketing site. Web applications can get over, you might be, going over, your deadlines. Sometimes you need to always try to, have the client's expectations, I don't know if down, but the client expectations
in
realistic.
Yeah.
In check, exactly. And as long as you're always sending updates to them and keeping the update of what is being done on the site, I think they're happy. And that's I will say I want to get over documentation process for other people joining the team perfect. And obviously I think I should be okay making tutorials over the weekends, like short tutorials. Like it doesn't need to be I don't need to have the good camera set up. I can just jump on the laptop, create a quick Loom video, and then post it on YouTube. And I think as long as the value is good, I think people just appreciate that.
Yeah. And we talked a couple of months ago, and you were just starting out with Produlis. Like, tell us a little bit about that journey. How did you decide to start? How many are you? And how many projects are you working on at the same time? And so on.
So right now we're working on 2 projects at the same time. You could say that. It wasn't an easy decision to leave Blackpeak. I had a fantastic time there. But I was a little overwhelmed at the end of the year, and this is something that I took the decision on October last year. But it was something that I have been thinking about, and obviously, I didn't have another income apart from Blackpeak, so my family was scared. I think I have been supporting my family for over 2 years now economically, and obviously it was not only my decision, right? I obviously discussed that with them, and I'm glad that they believed in me, right? I was scared at the beginning, right? I had no idea how things were going to go. I just want to. The only thing that I knew is that I could offer a good value to companies, that I could build. If I wouldn't have had that confidence in me, probably I would have just stayed working, on an agency. But I think I reached out the point where I felt confident enough, and there were things that I wanted to do that I was not possible to do in my position. So I just decided, to build my own agency, and it's been the best decision probably that I have taken in a while now.
What would you say? How different are your days now in comparison to before when you were working in an agency?
Not too much. I will say I'm pretty busy all day, but I feel this feeling of building something of your own with a fantastic team member, as a fantastic partner like Alda here. It's been fantastic. We are trying to be a bridge for software engineers in Peru that don't speak English, and that want to learn English so they can, try to reach better job positions than here in Peru, because I swear to you, we're bringing really good engineers, and I hate, how badly they get paid here in Peru, and that's what we're trying to achieve, right? And that feeling of bringing, great people into the team, teaching them English, like, because we talk English on the internal calls, and it's just good. It feels great, man. It's the same, we're always busy, but it just feels great.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, yeah, you're finding talented people and offering them basically a bridge to the world where, they can start living the life that they wanted, support their families just like you did, and so on.
Yeah.
And how many are you right now?
I'm sorry? How many? How many were?
Yeah.
Right now we are between freelancers and full-time members. We have right now we have had like 7 people working on projects. Right now, obviously, we have just a backend engineer. Well, pretty much 2 full stack engineers that are working as freelancers. One of them will be working as a full-time starting from next month, because he's leaving his job for the startup here in Peru. And the good thing is we can pay competitive salaries more than these startup companies here in Peru. And yeah, we have had like around 7 people, but mainly the team right now, 5 people, like solid, 5 people.
Amazing. And you were about to say something right before I asked you that question. So I don't know if you can remember it, but
I don't know what I was going to say, but it's fine. If I remember it, I will say something.
Perfect. Just shout if you remember it. Okay, and Pablo is asking, James, are you hiring?
Yeah, I don't, like, this is the thing, right? We are still landing clients, and we're not taking as many clients as we could. And we have already scheduled, that work for the future for certain developers. So I don't think we're hiring right now, because we have, everything scheduled for the next months. But we will be, I think we will be hiring as well more people soon, for sure.
Nice. So Pablo, there's your answer. Regarding leads, like, how do you started basically the agency just a couple of months ago. How do you find your leads? Where are your leads coming from? Is it your YouTube channel, or are you reaching out to companies?
So we a little bit of everything. We got some leads from YouTube, we got some leads from Google, we got some leads as well from Twitter. But I will say it's super important to create content. I don't, as I think as Joe Cruz said it before, as I have said it before as well on an Instagram story, you don't want to be selling your services. You don't want to be out there, messaging through call messages on LinkedIn to companies. I know it's a good way as well to land clients, but for me, just to build content on YouTube of my expertise just gives me that leverage to be able to, say no to a project or say yes, because we are getting, constant leads, and as well, to be able to be part of the Wized experts agencies that as well have brought us like a couple of leads lately. And yeah, for sure, it's just, I think, a mixture of everything, right? Our landing page is small. It's, but I think it achieves what it's looking for. It's small, it looks nice. They know that we have a really good approach on design. So, by the way, Aldair has been fantastic in the start. Aldair has done an amazing work. He's way better at the organization of the agency, and he has helped, all this process on Notion where we handle, our clients, the tasks, the permissions, the details account for each, tool, like Xano. He has done a fantastic job organizing everything.
Pablo is asking, James, do you think companies in Latin America will adopt WWX, or do you think the starting price is still a barrier?
No. I think people will definitely get into Wized, Webflow, and Xano. Obviously, right now we are not aiming for companies on South America, because our niches in right now in Europe, the US. But I guess now I don't think that the price that like these tools like Xano, Wized are cheap. Like whenever a company is making money, this are extremely cheap. Like these tools, like the capability that these tools give you for the price that we're paying is for me extremely cheap. And if they don't see the value on that, then it's not a proper client for you. I will say, companies will start jumping into this tool for sure in South America.
Last question that's here on the list is from Jeremy, and he's asking, what timeline are you working on average?
I will say 3 months. That will be the average. We have some projects that we have scheduled like 5 months of work. We have others around 2 months, but the minimum has been 2 months. Yeah. The minimum has been 2 months.
So 2 months plus then usually having a long-term relationship with the client and, jumping on a retainer afterwards. Like, from my experience, at least, almost every web app that we developed at FinSuite, we continued the relationship with the client, and they wanted to add more features, they wanted to change some things, improve some things, and so on. So it's usually that first phase where you're just building a really good relationship and creating a good product, delivering on whatever they're expecting, and then later on it's more about keeping that relationship and seeing how you can continue providing value, basically.
Yeah, I think that's why it's so important, the base setup of the web application, because then you as an agency, as a person who built it, as a group of people who build it, it's way easier, to push updates of that to avoid, bugs, errors on the back end. It's this whole group of flows that you've set up at the beginning that's super important for the future of this relationship as well. I think I have discussed this with Joe Krug, is that I know this is not it's not exciting sometimes to work on an old project, but if you build it properly, and it's not hard for you to push updates, and you have a dynamic staging environment, a live environment, this is what's going to hold the agency, right? This is why it's going to make us able to pay properly our developers and to be able to survive without new projects jumping into the agency, right? And that's super important. Like for me, this is why it's definitely after you have become an expert in Webflow, this is the next step for sure. This is the next step, because the marketing side doesn't give you that power, or people with a marketing side might not ask you for updates, right? They might just do them by themselves. But obviously with this setup, obviously way more complex for a client to jump on it. Obviously you want to build it with client first and to create some functionalities for them, because something that's what we never talk about is the internal dashboard that always client requests. You always have web applications and they always need to create function or make send emails or to create some type of logic for their team, for the internal team. And this is why it's a deal breaker. To be able to build these sites will give you that power to keep working for clients for a long time. Yep.
And what do you use for these internal tools? Do you use also WWX, or do you use something like Retool?
Yeah, we have been using Retool. This was part of as well the Blackpeak setup, and we definitely use Retool, and we are probably for this first project we're pushing, we might be using Airtable webhooks. Obviously not ideal, but for the functionality the client has, I think it's fine. But obviously you want a tool like Retool, you don't want to have two databases, you don't want to have to sync both databases. You just want to have Retool that is like a front-end builder for internal tools, pretty much exactly what you're looking for, for internal dashboard, where you just reference, to the API, to the Xano APIs, where you can just pull all the data that you need and then create logic on top of that. Yeah.
And just for people who are unfamiliar with Retool, what would you say are the benefits of using Retool as opposed to using Wized and Webflow to build these internal tools?
Oh, yeah. That time, obviously on Webflow, you need to build you probably want to go into Figma. Obviously, if the client is looking for a custom design, and to be able to log in from the same site from Webflow, I think it's fine to build it on Webflow because you can build an internal dashboard for them in Webflow and Wized and Xano. But obviously, if it's not important to build it in the same environment and just to have an internal dashboard where they can handle everything, Retool is the best. The time that you take to build like a table, a list of elements, it's just it's super fast. Like you can build like an internal dashboard in a day, and that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, so they have all these pre-made components, basically everything that you would need in a client dashboard.
Yes, and I think I think there's something for the future on Wized is like we should like I don't know, but probably the Wized tool could as well take some inspiration from Retool. They have really cool as well functionalities. They have so many event listeners and all these type of logic, but yeah, it's good. It's good for sure.
Nice. Yeah, I saw like a couple of suggestions already from the community saying like, oh, Retool has this and could you add that and so on, which it looks really solid. I've only spent like an hour in it or two just trying basic functionality out, but it seems really promising.
Yeah, no, for sure, it's promising.
Jimmy is asking, are you charging for discovery?
No, that's something that, we have been discussing about. But in order to land these enterprise clients, we are planning to give this for free. Like, if the first call doesn't go well or we don't feel that it's a right bit, we will probably just, send this client to another person, refer it to another agency that could be a better fit. This is mainly because two things: the price and as well that deadlines that they have. Because we don't want to work on something that is for tomorrow. So we're not charging for the discovery part, and we're giving that value for free. And testing, for testing we do testing, like we do a QA, like something that we're doing, and this is I should have said this before. We don't have a cascade process. Like we don't expect to finish Figma to jump into Webflow, then after finishing Webflow, jump into Wized and Xano. No, once we have that database structure set up on Figma, we already start working on Xano. We already start building the API endpoints on Xano. We don't need to wait to finish something to start the other things. So we are testing the API endpoint from Xano from the backend directly. Obviously, once we build the functionality, someone from the team is already jumping into QA that single functionality. So, we don't need to finish the whole web application to create something. Obviously, at the end of it, we obviously need to make a quick QA of everything because something might affect another flow. But for us, we don't need to, wait on something to be able to start testing it. So I think that the things that you need to test, obviously, is not Figma. You mainly need to test the front-end setup with the backend. You obviously need to test the backend by itself, the API endpoints in Xano. And that's pretty much how we handle it.
Yeah, last question. What has been the biggest project you ever worked on? How big was it?
Probably the biggest project I worked on. It's hard to say. I would say 4 months. I would say, a project cannot be big at the beginning, but with all the new functionality that the client might want to add, I think every single project should be taken with the same, amount of responsibility. But I would say 4 or 5 months. It depends on, I would say, for me, it's just that the database setup is the most heavy part to work on. Obviously, the front end as well can be tedious. You might have a lot of work on the front end, but the main thing that divides a large project from a small one is how complex is the database structure and how many flows you have. Yep.
Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
If I would have loved to have this advice at the beginning. Please, if you can work for an agency that's working on Webflow, Wized, and Xano projects, do it. I think there's no better way to get experience than working for someone else in this type of niche, right? I think it's a fantastic approach to learn as well these tools, to get more involved, with JavaScript, etc. Yeah.
Thank you everyone for jumping in, and thanks for sticking with us for this whole hour. This conversation was truly inspiring and fun, and I'm so glad to have you here, James.
Thank you so much, Emanuel. It was fantastic to be able to share this with the FinSphere community. I really appreciate it to be here. And let's hope that more people join to this, amazing Webflow Wized and Xano world that it's just growing so fast.
Thank you.